don't have to worry about food anymore because we are going to the gas chamber. Our group was not tattooed, so that means that we are going to the gas chamber. We were rounded up and taken to the railroad, put into boxcars. This time it was different than any other time. There were no women, no children. They were already exterminated by that time. No sick people, just men, maybe by the age of maybe 14, 15 on up, maybe to 40, 42 or so. Depends how, whatever they wanted to do. It was never like a cookie cutter. They did whatever that. Off we go. Last stop, we are in Mauthausen, Oberösterreich, Upper Austria. We were unloaded there from those boxcars. Mauthausen, the camp of Mauthausen, was famous or infamous, whichever way you want to label that. They were famous of doing bad things, the worst things that could possibly happen to a human being. They did it there. Anybody that need what they called special treatment, Mauthausen. To give you a little, for instance, they interrogated a Russian general by the name of Gorbachev. They tortured him to death. After the war was over, the Soviet Union came and they put up a monument. Of course, there are other monuments there, and where they explained what was happening to Gorbachev and other people. If you ever around in Central Europe, close to Prague, close to Vienna, close to Budapest, close to Linz, go and see Mauthausen. It will be there for a long time, because we have built that from stone. The wooden barracks are already completely gone, but the stone buildings are still there. And the camp in Mauthausen is on top of a hill. So, but there are pictures available that there's 190 steps. We had to run up those steps. Most of us didn't have the strength to walk. They were sticking their rifles in our ribs, dogs biting us, hitting us over the head. Run. Some of us made it up to the camp and some did not. Here comes nighttime. The head of the barrack said, we all going to sleep. We look around, nothing looks like sleep, no mattresses, no blankets, no bunk beds, nothing that is related to sleeping. And he keeps on talking. He says, every one of you will take up this much room. We had no idea what he's talking about, so he goes like this, and like this. None of us had any of this, and we still didn't know what he's talking about. So, and he knew that we don't know, so he stretched himself out, lie down, so take up this much. And he had his feet in somebody else's face, and somebody else's feet in his face. He mentioned Portugal, Sardinian. That means just like the Portuguese sardines. I don't know why he picked the Portuguese, but this is kopfus like this. We couldn't turn on the stomach or on the back. So maybe some of us did sleep because we have gone without food, without water. But if we go without sleep, it's worse yet than all those two together. So maybe some of us did sleep. We are crying for food, water. Maybe we get a little bit, but not enough to survive on. And we were told that we don't need to worry about food because we are going to the gas chamber. That's exactly what happened. They chased us in completely naked. They chased us into a building. It's still there, by the way. It's just a few steps. Estelle was with me there. Few steps down, and hermetically closed. Jam-packed, nothing is happening. We're looking up. It could look like who knows what it is. We had no idea. Soon some of us are falling down on the floor because they couldn't breathe. They didn't have enough air to breathe. So we're just there and not knowing what's happening. All of a sudden doors opened up out to the Appellplatz. The Appellplatz in the camps was the center point where most of the important things were decided and done. which I called the Appellplatz. Completely naked. We were put into groups of 68, 70, and 72. My brother and myself wound up in the group of 68, completely naked. My brother, who saved my life, and if you talk to me, I say he saved my life. You talk to him, he say that I saved his life, and we are both telling the truth. We are both telling the truth. So we received numbers in Mauthausen made from the cans that the Cyclone B came in, metal. One here, and one here. My number 68, 122. My brother right behind me, he held on to my shoulders. He always wanted to know where I am or make sure that he knows what I'm doing. 68, 122. I donated my number, the original, to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. If you Google me, the number comes up, 68, 122. I handed to them personally. I have pictures of that. By the way, I have some here in the bag, where I handed over my original number so people can see from generations to come that what was going on there. He made a statement, laughingly, he had like pleasure to say what he was saying, that Schadum Cox, die Hunde würden auch so krapieren. I remember his words. He says, the fuel to burn our bodies is too expensive. He will send us to a place where we will vanish without any cost to the Third Reich. That's exactly what he did. Off we go to the railroad. This was my number 4 trip in the boxcars. Number 4. I was an experienced traveler. Off we go. Last stop, we are in Ebensee. Ebensee was a subcamp of Mauthausen. Mauthausen had more than 40 subcamps. It was not a kindergarten. It was a big operation. Conditions in there were horrible. Beatings, torture, physical torture, mental torture, starvation, freezing in the wintertime. The bottom of my feet got frostbitten. I still had to go to work. Not only I, but most of us had to go to work. We were working in the Stolle, what they called, which was underground factories in the mountains. There are pictures available. I have some myself, but there are pictures available going in. The one that I worked in was Stolle number 3. It was about 3 stories high, full-size railroad going there, and they were going, to build V2. If somebody probably know the name Werner von Braun, he was the number 1 man in the missiles in Germany, and he came to the United States, and he became the number 1 man in the missiles. Well, those missiles were built to go to Washington, D.C. in New York City. I don't know how far to completion they got, because we only worked other labor besides the finished labor we did not do. So I don't know how far those missiles got. The starvation was so bad that most of us became what they call Musliman, hardly any flesh or muscles on the bodies. I myself was one of those, couldn't stand up, couldn't walk, so they hauled us all up by the crematorium. The commander of the camp was such a sadistic beast, where he would round up inmates and have his dogs trained to tear our flesh, our bodies, our clothes. He would chase in inmates and do some hunting for his pleasure, having a good time with his dogs. hanging people and put up signs. This is what happens to people that try to escape, just to keep us dehumanized, demoralized at all time. The conditions were beyond description in there. The beatings, the torture, the mental torture, the sadistic things that they did. Soon comes May the 6th, 1945. The American army was getting close, and the commander of the camp made a nice speech. He was very polite. I didn't hear him, but those that did, because I was already on one of those piles to be bulldozed. The crematorium didn't work. Maybe they didn't have fuel or whatever, and the bulldozers didn't show up. They were going to bulldoze. They didn't show up. So I was on top of those. Those that were on the bottom were already 3 days or 4 days. They were already dead, and the vultures are doing their things. So the commander of the camp told us that everybody should go into those underground factories in order to save our lives, because the Americans will bombard, they will shoot, they will kill, so because it was wartime. But he did not tell us that all those where he told us to get into was mined with dynamite and other explosives. All they had to do is get us in there. And he even had civilian people from the town to force us in there. This did not happen because the American army surprised him. They came in earlier, maybe a day or so earlier, or maybe hours, who knows. One American tank broke the gate and liberated our camp. His name is Bob Persinger. I'm still in touch with him on the phone. I just talked to him a couple of days ago. We talk about the old days, what was happening there and so on, and about the good days, to be thankful that we are here and we are alive and we are doing. So comes to mind, what kind of a human being was that commander of this camp? His name was Anton Ganz. After we have worked for so many years without proper food, without proper clothing, without proper lodging, to kill us off. This is where it comes, where I said at the beginning, to make sure that every Jewish man, woman, and child is being killed. So this is what he was going to do to us. And that this was hours or maybe just minutes before the American army liberated us. My brother came looking for me. He knew I was on one of those piles, and he had somebody else helping him. Says, hey, my brother is here, and he's talking to me. We are freed. We're going to go home. We get something to eat. I couldn't even comprehend what he was saying. So we were liberated. Our group, or some of our group, was taken wherever they could find a hospital or a room or a bed to place us there. My brother and I and others were placed in one of the hospitals called Podoli Sanatorium in Prague. They helped us and they tried to cure us the best way they could. We did not wait to be discharged because we wanted to go home or be free or whatever. So my brother and I, we escaped from the hospital and we tried to go home. And we were traveling on top of the trains because we didn't have money for passage, so they chased us down. We have reached the capital city of Slovakia called Bratislava. I couldn't walk, but my brother says, you stay here, and I will go, because he was there previously, to see whether somebody survived. He knocked on the door, and my sister comes to the door. Our sister comes to the door. What a pleasant surprise. I mean, this is a miracle. Comes the question, where do people like this commander of the camp getting to kill us off in the last minute? Where does so much hatred come into a beast or a human being, maybe? Without knowing or understanding that we are brothers and sisters, there should be no hatred among us. There should be peace in the house, peace in the home, because we Jewish people, we greet ourselves shalom coming and shalom going. So we always have peace is the big thing in our lives, that we should have peace in our hearts, we should have peace in our home, peace with the neighbors, peace in the world, because we don't need to killing us off with more and more bombs. We don't need any more bombs. Hashem, God gives us all the good things in the world, so let's enjoy, and let there not be hatred. I don't like you because of this, I don't like you because of that, I don't like where you come from, I don't like the way you speak, I don't like this. There should be, we are God's children. We are created in God's image. So let's try and learn how to live like brothers and sisters, because we are brothers and sisters. I think my time is up, and I would like to hear questions. No limit to questions. Whatever question comes up in your mind, boom. And I'm here, and I'll stay until midnight if needed to answer those questions. So let's hear them.
Have you written a book about this?
Have I wrote a book? I'm going to. As a matter of fact, the gentleman that is writing my book is right here, sitting here. So, and this gentleman, he forced me to do it. So he won the case. He's bigger than I am.
Your sister survived.
My sister never shared with me exactly what was happening in there. Nor did those twins shared with me or anybody else what was done to them. My sister, when she was liberated, she was depressed. They even gave her electric shocks to help her come to get rid of the depression. For the rest of her life, she was depressed. As a matter of fact, when I first went back to our home, I went to her house and asked her, please come with me to our home. She says, my feet will never touch that ground as long as I'm alive. And she died, and her feet did not touch that ground. Where I met Estelle? Here, right here in San Diego. And there are two stories. She has a different story, and I have two different stories. So I was president of the Jewish single adults, and she's smart. She married the president, so this is how. She will tell you a different story altogether.
I'd like to know, are there any statistics on how many of the infants that were, children that were born during the time that you mentioned, during the massacres? Were any of those babies, did they survive?
There were no babies born there, and if there were, they would kill off any pregnant woman. And those that went through Auschwitz, of course, other extermination camps were every camp was different, and every day and every minute was a little different. And there are pictures available. As soon as we were unloaded from those boxcars, they were separated, and those that went, one